The Arrival is the second episode of the third season, but the first to air that Rod Serling wrote for this batch of episodes. It was originally broadcast on September 22, 1961, and featured the return of a director who helmed one of the better episodes the previous season. Does this airplane-based mystery match the quality of other stories of similar subject matter? Or was it simply flying blind? FAA investigator Grant Sheckley is called in when Flight 107 from Buffalo lands at an airport with no pilot, passengers, or crew on board. He works with the airport's officials to discover the why and the how of this peculiar situation. However, when he realizes that each person helping with the investigation sees the seats in the plane as a different color and even different numbers on the exterior, Sheckley surmises an improbable hypothesis and plans to prove it by putting himself in considerable danger. Boris Sagal returned for his second and final directing assignment. His first was Season 2's sophisticated and haunting story, The Silence. I think that installment benefited from a truly brutal double twist that in retrospect improved everything before it, even creating intriguing opportunities for repeat viewings. The Arrival does the opposite, where the ending reveal devalued most of the buildup. It's unfortunate because there's clearly a strong visual style at play that Sagal and cinematographer George T. Clemens collaborated on here. I love the sweeping shots of the airport hangar at the top of the episode especially. Another great shot in the same location sees Sheckley reach out his hand for that leap of faith moment, hoping to verify his suspicions. It's the highlight of the piece for sure, and creates great tension using wind, fog, and a nice silent performance from actor Harold J. Stone. The rest of the cast is fine. A few of them, like Fred Wayne, Noah Keane, Bing Russell, and Jim Bowles, made other Twilight Zone appearances. The acting really isn't the issue here. I'll just say it, I don't think The Arrival comes close to other Serling-written episodes like The Odyssey of Flight 33 or Richard Matheson's Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Honestly, most don't when compared to the latter, but it is interesting to look at the similarities of a few plane-based Zone stories. You can see that King 9 Will Not Return has some similar attributes as well. Judging this one on its own merits, it was a bit of an up-and-down rewatch for me. I think the first half is largely forgettable until things finally get compelling in the middle of the story. Our main character doesn't really join us until the 5-minute mark, so that might have had something to do with the slow start. Sheckley starts to think something's up after he has a vague familiarity with the names of the people who supposedly boarded the plane in Buffalo, but upon seeing different colored seats than the other investigators, he forms an outlandish theory.
Any one of you ever hear of mass suggestion? I think that's what we're dealing with now, a kind of hypnosis. I don't think this aeroplane is really here. I think every one of us had a little hypnosis performed on it. I read one number off the tail. 2 other guys reads 2 others.
It is something different for a character to make such a Twilight Zone-y guess about what's really going on in the midpoint of a script. Frankly, this would have probably been a better twist than what we got. Sheckley takes an insane risk to prove his idea that the plane is an illusion. He steps forward with his hand outstretched, heading straight for the propeller. When he reaches it, the entire plane disappears, with Robbins inside. This is promptly followed by Cousins, Bankston, and Malloy doing the same. Flabbergasted, Sheckley walks to the airport office where Bankston and Malloy don't recognize him. Weirder still is a newspaper headline that Flight 107 from Buffalo landed safely earlier in the day carrying a Hollywood starlet on board. Turns out, 17 or 18 years ago, Sheckley was the lead examiner on a different Flight 107 from Buffalo that went missing in the fog over the ocean. It was presumed crashed for reasons unknown. That was the only case Sheckley couldn't solve, and it's haunted him since. This new Flight 107 situation is revealed to have all been in Sheckley's head. Delirious, he breaks down on the runway, shouting for the one flight he could never find. Sheckley losing his mind at the end was a nice touch. Love those ending shots of him on the runway. More solid visuals from Sagal and Clemens. It's unfortunate they weren't part of a better episode. Things went from mildly enticing to a bit confusing pretty quick. Having the one case Sheckley never solved haunting him in this way is not a bad idea, but it goes on for too long when it's overly explained by Bankston in the airport offices. It also makes zero sense why Malloy and Bankston were illusions in the first place. Maybe having the pilots or other passengers from the doomed flight fill those roles would have worked better. As is, it feels weird just for the sake of being weird. Or maybe they didn't have the budget to hire more actors. We know that was a problem in the past. On the whole, The Arrival has a few great shots, captivating moments, and solid performances. However, when you take into account the dull first half and the fumble of an execution on the twist, it drops below a recommendation from me. It's not an offensive entry in the series, but there are plenty of better episodes with comparable elements. I'd say to check those out and leave this mystery in the uncharted airspace of the Twilight Zone.